Hello everyone, I am the Enforcer and welcome to Breaking News. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe and support us on Patreon. The link is below. Today's urgent updates highlight key global geopolitical and security events unfolding across several critical regions, underscoring the complexity and volatility of the international security landscape at this moment. In Russia, a high-ranking GRU commander, General Vladimir Alexev, narrowly survived a brazen assassination attempt that has sent shockwaves through the intelligence community and Kremlin circles alike. General Alexev was shot 3 times in the back by an assailant who managed to infiltrate his highly secure apartment building under circumstances that remain unclear, leaving him critically wounded and now fighting for his life in a top-tier Moscow military hospital. This bold attack on such a prominent figure in Russia's military intelligence apparatus has raised serious concerns regarding the safety and operational security of Russia's top intelligence officers, prompting an intensive and wide-ranging investigation spearheaded by the FSB and other security agencies to identify the shooter, uncover their motives, and explore any possible foreign or internal links that could have enabled or inspired the assassination attempt. The incident has also intensified scrutiny over potential rivalries within Russia's complex security establishment and has fueled speculation about whether foreign intelligence services might be attempting to destabilize Russia from within by targeting key figures. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, diplomatic efforts to ease tensions have suffered a significant setback after U.S.-Iran talks collapsed abruptly when the U.S. delegation walked out in frustration, primarily due to Iran's steadfast refusal to agree to meaningful reductions in its uranium enrichment activities, a core sticking point in the negotiations aimed at reviving the 2015 nuclear deal. Despite this diplomatic impasse, both sides have signaled a willingness to keep channels open for future dialogue, although the prospects for a near-term breakthrough appear increasingly dim amid deep mistrust and entrenched positions. On the security front, the U.S. Navy continues to maintain a strong and vigilant presence in the strategically vital Persian Gulf, with the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group placed on high alert in response to escalating Iranian asymmetric tactics, which include the use of swarm boat attacks and other unconventional methods designed to challenge freedom of navigation and disrupt maritime traffic near the critical Strait of Hormuz. In a parallel move, the United Kingdom has bolstered its military footprint in the region by deploying 6 advanced F-35 stealth multi-role fighter jets to Al Ankara Air Base, signaling a coordinated Western commitment to counterbalance Iranian influence and ensure regional stability. In Syria, the interim government is making concerted efforts to expand its territorial control in the northeast amid the ongoing conflict that continues to fragment the country and complicate international efforts toward peace. Meanwhile, in Poland, a series of repeated drone incursions targeting key military installations have raised alarm bells about potential espionage or sabotage operations, leading to heightened security measures and investigations into the origins and objectives of these increasingly sophisticated aerial threats. Following the breakdown in diplomacy, the United States has imposed a fresh round of economic sanctions aimed at further crippling Iran's economy. However, Washington has ruled out imminent military action, citing the intricate and precarious regional dynamics that could trigger broader conflict. Returning to Moscow, the assassination attempt on General Alexev underscores the fragile and perilous security environment confronting Russia's intelligence operatives, sparking heightened alert levels across multiple agencies tasked with safeguarding national security and preventing further destabilizing acts that could reverberate through Russia's political and military establishments. This event not only highlights internal vulnerabilities, but also serves as a stark reminder of the ongoing geopolitical rivalries playing out in the shadows of global power politics. The general is currently hospitalized in Moscow and remains in critical condition, with grave reports suggesting that he may not survive his injuries, which have sparked widespread concern and speculation about the circumstances surrounding the attack. What makes this situation particularly intriguing and somewhat perplexing are the details about the general's living conditions, which seem incongruous given his high rank within the Russian Ministry of Defense. Despite his prominent position, he resided in a 25-story apartment building that reportedly lacked an elevator, an unusual and inconvenient feature for a building of such height, especially for someone of his age and status. It is believed that the attack occurred within the stairwell of this building, implying that the general had to regularly navigate 25 flights of stairs, a physically demanding task that would be challenging for anyone, let alone an older man with predominantly gray hair and the stress of his position. This fact alone raises questions about the adequacy of his living arrangements and the level of care provided to senior military officials. Moreover, the building reportedly had no functioning CCTV cameras, a security flaw that residents had been complaining about for months, as documented by local Russian news outlets. The absence of surveillance footage means there is no visual evidence of the assailant, making it extraordinarily difficult to identify or apprehend the perpetrator, and raising serious concerns about the security protocols in place for such a high-ranking military figure. This situation underscores a broader systemic issue wherein many Russian generals, aside from those at the very top echelon such as the Minister of Defense, live in conditions that can only be described as squalid, neglected, or otherwise inadequate, exposing them to vulnerabilities that adversaries might exploit. Indeed, it appears the Ukrainians, who are widely believed to have carried out this assassination attempt, capitalized on these weaknesses, highlighting the intersection of personal security failures and geopolitical conflict. The general's survival remains uncertain as he fights for his life in a Moscow hospital, a stark reminder of the human cost of ongoing tensions. Meanwhile, Russia's economic situation is equally precarious and deteriorating rapidly. As of January 2026, Russia's oil and gas budget revenues have plummeted by 50%, dropping to 393 billion rubles, largely attributed to declining global oil prices and diminished demand, according to reports from the central bank. This steep decline represents a significant downturn compared to both last year's figures and the projected baseline for this period, signaling a deepening crisis in the country's primary economic sector. The Russian oil industry, which serves as the backbone of the national economy, is hemorrhaging money at an alarming rate, with revenues having every quarter or month, a trend that strongly suggests the industry is on the brink of collapse, if it has not already begun to fail. The potential collapse of these oil companies would trigger devastating ripple effects throughout the entire Russian Federation, impacting not only industries directly linked to oil production and export, but also a wide array of unrelated sectors, given the central role energy revenues play in funding government operations, social services, and other economic activities. If the core of Russia's economic structure effectively ceases to function, the consequences could be catastrophic, leading to widespread economic instability, increased social unrest, and diminished geopolitical influence. Given these intertwined developments, the general's precarious health and the faltering state of Moscow's economy and stock market, neither the individual nor the broader national landscape appears to be in good shape at this time, painting a grim picture for Russia's immediate future. The U.S. delegation departed Muscat, Oman early this morning following brief high-stakes discussions with Iranian officials that extended only a few hours and ultimately failed to produce any meaningful progress on three critical and contentious issues at the heart of ongoing international concern: Iran's nuclear program, its missile development initiatives, and its continued support for various proxy groups, such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in the Palestinian territories, which have been sources of persistent tension and conflict in the region. These issues are deeply intertwined with broader regional dynamics and have long been the subject of intense scrutiny and negotiation efforts by multiple global actors seeking to prevent further escalation and potential conflict, as well as to promote stability and security in a highly volatile geopolitical environment. Throughout these talks, Iran remained resolutely uncooperative, employing a familiar pattern of stonewalling that has characterized its approach to negotiations in recent years, particularly in light of its recent provocative actions, including the seizure of multiple oil tankers navigating strategic waterways like the Strait of Hormuz, a vital artery for international oil shipments, and explicit threats directed toward the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier trigro. Credible reports emerging from the discussions confirmed that Iran categorically refused to halt or even scale back its enrichment of nuclear fuel, a non-negotiable demand repeatedly emphasized by the international community, including the United Nations and the International Atomic Energy Agency, as essential to preventing nuclear proliferation and preserving regional security. Despite showing no willingness to make substantive concessions, Iranian representatives expressed a keen interest in continuing the talks, albeit with no clear agenda or commitment to concrete outcomes, effectively employing a diplomatic strategy designed to buy time and avoid immediate repercussions from sanctions or potential military interventions. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araki described this session as a good opening, a carefully chosen phrase that signals Tehran's intention to drag out negotiations indefinitely without making meaningful commitments, thereby maintaining a strategic advantage. This protracted negotiation tactic enables Iran to quietly advance its nuclear and missile programs while simultaneously preserving leverage over international actors and reassuring its regional allies of its capacity to withstand external pressures and sanctions, thereby solidifying its influence in a geopolitically volatile environment. Meanwhile, the United States and its global partners face the daunting task of calibrating their diplomatic efforts to counterbalance Iran's destabilizing activities, which include not only military provocations, but also extensive support for insurgent groups that threaten the fragile stability of the Middle East and complicate efforts toward peace and reconstruction. This delicate balancing act is further complicated by Tehran's deliberate stalling tactics, which undermine trust and prolong uncertainty, making it increasingly difficult for negotiators to achieve lasting agreements that could pave the way for de-escalation and regional stability. Security analysts warn that unless there is a fundamental shift in Iran's negotiating posture and genuine willingness to engage in good faith dialogue, future rounds of talks are likely to mirror the current stalemate, perpetuating a cycle of regional instability that risks escalating into broader conflict, with potentially severe repercussions for global peace and security, including disruptions to global energy supplies, increased refuge flow. The international community remains watchful, recognizing that the stakes extend far beyond the immediate region, touching on global energy markets, international non-proliferation norms, and the broader geopolitical balance of power, all of which hinge on the ability of diplomatic efforts to foster genuine progress in curbing Iran's contentious programs and mitigating its influence over proxy conflicts. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but if negotiations continue as they have, a mutually agreed framework might be possible, though significant uncertainty remains due to complex geopolitical, ideological, and strategic factors that continue to evolve unpredictably. After 8 tumultuous months of intermittent dialogue marked by numerous setbacks, deep-seated mistrust, and sporadic breakthroughs, talks have gained some momentum. However, the biggest obstacle remains the profound distrust between the parties, which persistently undermines progress and threatens to derail the entire process at critical junctures. The negotiations revolve around a paradoxical stance. Each side insists, "We will discuss all issues, but will not commit to concrete agreements yet," reflecting a blend of caution, defensiveness, and an unwillingness to appear vulnerable or concede too much too soon. Surprisingly, some analysts hail this cautious, non-committal approach as a form of progress despite its ineffectiveness in producing tangible results or lasting confidence. This appears to be a deliberate tactic by Iran to buy time, possibly to consolidate domestic political support, strengthen its negotiating position, or exert pressure on the U.S. through regional allies, hoping that Washington will eventually retreat or soften its demands under mounting regional complexities. Recently, it emerged that General Michael Cooper from U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, attended confidential talks in Oman, despite Iranian officials dismissing such claims publicly. This added an intelligence and military oversight dimension that complicates the diplomatic narrative. Iranian officials argued that CENTCOM's presence would undermine the negotiations, as military personnel could see through Iran's pretense and intimidate the delegation, potentially influencing their stance and reducing Iran's negotiating flexibility. Yet, the U.S. commander's presence suggests a more complex and layered engagement than publicly acknowledged, intertwining military strategy with diplomacy in subtle but significant ways. Iran has skillfully exploited U.S. eagerness to negotiate, using this dynamic as leverage to extract concessions or delay unfavorable outcomes while projecting an image of cooperation. A U.S. official recently announced talks will continue, signaling a willingness for prolonged discussions, despite Iran's reluctance to make meaningful concessions, underscoring Washington's strategic patience. Negotiations could be a U.S. strategic maneuver to reposition forces and recalibrate its Middle East strategy, a plausible scenario given recent developments, or a genuine attempt at diplomatic resolution motivated by Washington's reluctance to resort to military options due to domestic political constraints and the risk of regional escalation. The implications of either path are profound, with direct impacts on regional stability, global energy markets, and broader international security frameworks. However, as many experts expected, talks ultimately collapsed with no significant progress, leaving the situation tense and precarious. Meanwhile, Iran demonstrated increased regional assertiveness through aggressive naval maneuvers near the vital Strait of Hormuz. A U.S. reconnaissance aircraft detected about 40 fast attack boats operating roughly 14 nautical miles off Iran's coast, near the Sheikh Shahid Saad Maji base in the southern Strait of Hormuz near the Gulf of Oman. High-altitude drone contrails and extensive aerial surveillance indicated intense monitoring of the swarm's movements and their potential threat to maritime traffic. This sizable group operated within critical shipping lanes, posing serious risks to commercial and military vessels navigating this vital artery for global oil transit. At the time, 2 large clusters of oil tankers were anchored mid-Gulf of Oman, awaiting safe passage through the strait, highlighting the delicate balance between military posturing, regional power projection, and the imperative to maintain uninterrupted international commerce. The situation is a stark reminder of the fragile security environment in this crucial maritime choke point, where even minor provocations could trigger wider conflict with significant global repercussions, emphasizing the need for cautious diplomacy and vigilant security measures. There is widespread speculation among international security analysts and geopolitical experts that Iran might once again attempt to seize oil tankers as a strategic maneuver to gain leverage in its ongoing disputes with the United States, as well as to exert influence over global oil markets amidst the complex and sensitive nuclear negotiations and broader regional security talks currently underway. Such a provocative move would almost certainly be aimed at the Strait of Hormuz, an exceptionally critical maritime choke point through which a significant percentage of the world's petroleum supply flows daily, making it a vital artery for global energy trade and economic stability. Disruptions at the strait, even if temporary, could have profound ripple effects, potentially causing volatility in global oil prices, impacting energy security for numerous countries, and exacerbating tensions between major powers with interests in the region. The Strait of Hormuz's geographic characteristics contribute to its vulnerability. It is a narrow passage, only about 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, bordered by Iran to the north and the United Arab Emirates and Oman to the south, lying in close proximity to several contentious and disputed borders, which heightens the geopolitical stakes and the risk of miscalculation or escalation. Despite these concerns, Tehran's exact intentions remain ambiguous and are the subject of intense scrutiny by intelligence agencies and regional observers, who closely monitor satellite imagery intercept communications, and track military movements for any signs of preparatory action. A notable element of Iran's current military posture includes a marked increase in drone reconnaissance activity near the Strait of Hormuz, with Iranian drones frequently observed conducting surveillance missions that appear to be focused on tracking the movements of the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, which is currently deployed in the area with a mission to secure maritime transit and deter potential threats to shipping lanes. These unmanned aerial vehicles, which form a key component of Iran's asymmetric warfare strategy, provide Tehran with valuable real-time intelligence while reducing the risk of direct confrontation, as they tend to operate near the Pakistani-Iranian border and along Iran's southern coastline, thereby minimizing the chance of interception or engagement by U.S. forces. The USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Group itself is equipped with state-of-the-art aircraft, including E-2 Hawkeye early warning planes, F-35C Lightning II stealth fighters, and versatile F-A-18 Hornets, underscoring the United States' commitment to maintaining operational superiority and the ability to respond swiftly and decisively to any threats. Whether the deployment of this strike group is intended as a signal of imminent offensive action or as a robust deterrent designed to prevent Iranian aggression remains a matter of debate among defense analysts, reflecting the delicate and often precarious balance of power and risk that characterizes the Gulf region. Concurrently, the United Kingdom has taken steps to bolster regional defense capabilities by redeploying 6 Royal Air Force F-35B jets to its base in Cyprus, thereby enhancing support for allied forces and increasing deterrence amid rising Iranian assertiveness and ongoing security challenges. Meanwhile, Iran continues to advance its ballistic missile testing program, further reinforcing its deterrence posture despite the continuation of tense and fragile diplomatic efforts aimed at de-escalating tensions and reaching a negotiated settlement. Together, these developments paint a picture of a highly volatile standoff in the Gulf, marked by persistent military posturing, continuous intelligence gathering, and strategic deployments that carry significant implications not only for regional stability, but also for the security of global energy supplies far beyond the Persian Gulf itself. I must reiterate that despite Iran's claims of engaging in negotiations, their recent escalatory actions only serve to destabilize both the negotiation process and any potential peace efforts with them. These actions include increased missile tests, aggressive rhetoric from Iranian officials, and the acceleration of uranium enrichment activities, all of which undermine trust and complicate diplomatic efforts. We have also observed that Iran continues to bolster protections around its nuclear facilities, likely due to an anticipation of possible strikes from external actors, particularly the United States or its allies. This behavior suggests that Iran views the current negotiations with the United States as conducted in bad faith and suspects that the U.S. may eventually resort to military action, such as targeted bombing campaigns or cyber attacks aimed at crippling their nuclear infrastructure. Consequently, Iran is actively preparing to defend its nuclear sites, which are believed to store enriched uranium and other sensitive nuclear materials, by deploying advanced air defense systems, constructing underground facilities, and implementing sophisticated electronic countermeasures. It is clear from Iran's firm stance that they refuse to negotiate away their uranium enrichment capabilities, indicating that they are still producing weapons-grade enriched uranium and storing it domestically in considerable quantities. They are determined not to relinquish their existing stockpiles or their ability to produce more, viewing these capabilities as essential to their national security and regional influence. Beyond the Iranian context and its nuclear ambiguity, shifting focus briefly to other developments in the broader Middle East, a cold storage facility near Al-Bayer recently caught fire under suspicious circumstances, ironically contradicting its purpose of refrigeration, as the smoke billowing from the site suggested it was heating up rather than cooling, raising questions about potential sabotage. Moving on to Syria, The Syrian interim government is pressing forward with efforts to annex territories controlled by the Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, a Kurdish-led militia that has been a key player in the fight against ISIS, but remains at odds with the Damascus regime. A convoy from the interim government headed toward the Al-Hasaka area today, aiming to incorporate parts of the SDF's administrative structures into their own governance framework, and attempting to reintegrate some SDF fighters into forces loyal to the Kolani regime, which seeks to reassert control over northeastern Syria. The prospects for this integration seem bleak. Significant tension and conflict are expected because many former SDF members are likely to be blacklisted by the Kolani regime due to their perceived questionable loyalties, differing ideological views, and the fact that they are not part of the Sunni Arab majority that the Kolani regime predominantly represents in southwestern Syria. This ethnic and political divide exacerbates the difficulty of peaceful reintegration, potentially leading to further clashes and instability in the region. Finally, in the Diego Garcia area, recent satellite imagery from February 5th confirms the presence of two U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, two MC-130J Commando Second Special Operations aircraft, and three KC-135 Stratotanker aerial refueling planes. This specific combination is noteworthy because the MC-130Js are specialized variants typically operated by the U.S. Air Force's Special Operations Command, indicating a potential Special Forces presence or preparation for special operations in the region, possibly reflecting increased U.S. military readiness or strategic posturing amid rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific theme. The P-8 Poseidons enhance maritime surveillance capabilities, while the KC-135 Stratotankers extend the operational range of these assets, underscoring a coordinated effort to maintain situational awareness and rapid response capacity in this strategically vital area. We can observe that there are two US Navy P-8 Poseidons, which are typically used for maritime patrol and anti-submarine warfare operations, equipped with advanced sensors and weaponry designed to detect and neutralize hostile submarines and surface threats over vast oceanic expanses, including sophisticated sonar arrays, radar systems, and precision-guided munitions. The presence of the strategic tankers such as the KC-135 Stratotanker or the KC-46 Pegasus suggests that the United States might be preparing to conduct extended air operations, where the C-130s or P-8 Poseidons could require mid-air refueling to reach destinations further east, possibly toward critical areas of interest like the Middle East or near Iran's maritime border. This development is quite significant, as it indicates that the U.S. is exploring a wide range of strategic options, including naval warfare against Iran's Sol Kilo-class submarine, a formidable diesel-electric submarine capable of stealthy operations, and potential special forces raids inside Iran, possibly involving the currently deployed MC-100J aircraft, which are specially modified for infiltration, exfiltration, and resupply missions. Shifting focus away from the Middle East, the United States has recently imposed a new round of sanctions on Iran, following unsuccessful negotiations, signaling a firm and unwavering stance despite the lack of progress in diplomatic talks. The Department of State announced comprehensive sanctions targeting multiple entities, individuals and vessels with the goal of disrupting the flow of revenue that the Iranian regime uses to support terrorism abroad and repress its population internally. Among those sanctioned are 14 Shadow Fleet vessels owned by entities involved in transporting Iranian petroleum products, and petrochemical goods through covert shipping arrangements designed to evade international oversight and sanctions enforcement. Additionally, 15 entities engaged in trading Iranian crude oil, petroleum, or petrochemical products, along with 2 associated individuals who play key roles in facilitating these illicit networks, have been sanctioned. The official statement emphasizes that the Iranian government repeatedly prioritizes destabilizing activities over the welfare and security of its own citizens, as evidenced by its violent suppression of peaceful protesters and ongoing human rights abuses. The U.S. vows to continue targeting the network of shippers and traders who facilitate Iran's primary income sources, drawing explicit parallels to Russia's similar behavior in leveraging shadow fleets and sanctions evasion tactics to sustain their regimes amid international pressure. While the sanctions represent a measured and calibrated response, essentially a warning to Iran for negotiating in bad faith and continuing malign activities, the U.S. remains open to further dialogue if Iran chooses to engage constructively. Meanwhile, in Poland, a second drone incident recently occurred near the 1st Air Cavalry Battalion at the Lord's Voyad ship area in western Poland, following a previous drone crash in the Praska area on January 28, raising concerns about regional security and airspace violations. The Polish military police, or Żandarmeria Wojskowa, are actively investigating these incidents with a focus on identifying the origin and intent of the drones and will provide updates as the investigations develop. It remains unclear whether these drone activities are linked to Russian operatives aiming to conduct surveillance or provocations, or if they are simply a group of civilians engaging in reckless behavior. But further information is expected in the coming hours as authorities gather intelligence. These are the main updates for today, and I sincerely thank you all for watching. If you found this video informative, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We produce these updates as frequently as possible when there is enough news to report during the day. If you would like to support our work, please consider contributing on Patreon. The link is in the description below. I want to extend a huge thank you to everyone who supports us on Patreon. Your contributions allow us to keep the lights on and cover our bills, enabling us to dedicate ourselves fully to this work. Because of your support, we can report the news every single day to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. We truly appreciate all of you, and we look forward to seeing you in the next update.